revised and updated website. The whole project started 10 months ago, and it very much started with a very simple requirement for an organization such as the Miller Group, very large organization, particularly their homes division, who were looking to try and connect better with home buyers, and also try and reduce the cost of looking after the IT to look after their website. They were using older technology, very flat, had to rely on an external agency for updating any pages and any content, so they very quickly understood web content management. Let's hand back the ownership of our website presence, which is so important to us, to the business and take it away from IT. So they got in touch with us. We had some discussions, went through a tender and examined the requirements. And it was very much about moving what they had into the new technology initially. That's when we brought in Guy Lane from the college, because we felt there was an opportunity being missed. They were going to make this big investment, put all this site core technology, great technology in place, but what was it going to do for those home buyers? What was going to be different? And I've got a couple of little props here. What Guy and his team put together very, very quickly, within about 24 hours, they assessed the current website and came up with a document about what they felt was lacking, why it wasn't engaging with home buyers. They produced another one which was about the whole, what is user experience? Why does visual design so important when a visitor comes to your website? How do we make that attractive? How do we make it warm and engaging? Because our understanding and belief was that the current site was very masculine, very brash, and we are going to show you some clips, so if you've missed the old site, we will show you some clips as we go through this today. And we also, the third part of this exercise, to hopefully get Miller to choose our team, was to look at their whole social media engagement. How were they using the social media enterprise to connect with customers or prospective customers? So that's how we all started. That was 10 months ago. What we'd like to do over the next 30 minutes is try and walk you through that whole process and engagement, what we've actually done, how we got there, look at some of the challenges that we faced as we went along, and then show you some of the things that Graham and I in particular are doing with Heriot-Watt University in terms of enhancing the visual interactive media capabilities within their site. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to hand over to Graham, who's going to introduce Miller. He'll come back to me, and then I'm going to hand over to Guy, who's going to talk more about the whole design visual experience methodology. Graham, Sterling.
Thanks, Dave. I just click onto the first slide. I think the important point to make from our point of view is we've been building homes for over 75 years, unlike some of the previous presenters, so it's a more modern market. So the point to make there is we're a very traditional business, and we have a lot of very traditional people who are still running the business. So the online world and winning this new digital age is still somewhat of a challenge within some areas of our business. But as Dave has alluded to, we had multiple websites built up over time organically, no real strategy, no real platform to deliver that from, and was costing us a lot of money year on year. And probably most importantly, seemed to be very slow to change anything that the business wanted. Very, very slow indeed. A small change would take 6 weeks and an estimate, and then this and then this. So we had to try and move from that. Our home building division, it's not up market, it's not down at low level, we're trying to be mid-market, so family homes, some first-time buyer market, predominantly in that family home type marketplace. And Miller Group is one of the largest privately owned companies in the UK. Does that make a difference? Not really, but I think the summary is that we're trying to move that traditional business forward in the digital age and what we've been trying to do. So I think everybody knows the recession has hit very hard in this country, and we have been particularly very hard hit in the home building industry. We're probably building 50% of the homes we were in 2006, 2007, and that's probably the lowest we've ever built in the UK since almost post-war time. So it's extremely, extremely difficult times for the industry. We wanted to at the same time improve the value of our web presence, because whilst home building sales have been going down, people browsing online for homes has been increasing. The initiation of Rightmove and Zoopla and other sites as well has increased all that. So after a long process, it was a fairly long process, Dave, I felt, or Chris may have felt as well, but we eventually chose Sitecore as our platform to go forward on. And the website went live last week, which I'd say was probably 12 weeks of, maybe even less than 12 weeks, to be honest. By the time we bought it and got going with it and got our people trained on it, probably about 12 weeks from start to finish to it going live yesterday. So quite a short space of time, I would say, in the overall scheme of things. We want to boost our interest in our brand and increase sales inquiries, because a bit like the EasyJet gentleman earlier on, we've only got planning to build that many houses this year, so we can't really sell any more. We're not going to realistically get planning to build another 1,000 houses this year out of our planning capacity in the UK. So we want to try and maximise the people on the site and maximise the amount of sales and registrations and visits to the site that we get from our website. So it's not trying to increase sales, it's more trying to increase that rate of sale. And I think I've covered that increased drive to the show homes, into our sales pipeline to see the physical product, because we don't believe that people are going to buy a house online. It's usually their biggest purchase of their life. It's a mortgage. You know, we've had about one purchase. It was a Dubai person, but other than that, you know, the website is there to get them into our sales pipeline and to visit that actual physical development. So we're not necessarily looking for more hits. We're looking for people to stay longer on the site. So, you know, for that to happen, it's got to look good, which we'll come on to. It's got to be it's got to be functionally good. It's got to have the right information on there, and it's got to be fast. And you know, it has to interface to our existing systems. We interface to our current Oracle ERP system, because that's where all the pricing is done and the build plot release and various other things like that. We integrate into our Salesforce, which is our lead generation program system. And we integrate into things like Rightmove and Zoopla, which is key for us, because whilst we want people coming to our site, you know, we're fairly aware that these third-party portals, probably everybody's used them, are very prominent now in the industry, so we need to use them and integrate with those also. So in summary, what we're trying to do is to integrate that online marketing activity into our sales process. And I think everything we're going to try and do in the future is to get our own business processes onto the website and into there through the whole sales process, through that legal completion process, and then latterly into the customer care arena and everything else, which we're going to try and keep ourselves ahead of every other competitor, because it is a very competitive market out there and difficult for us to convert sales at the moment. So the website's hopefully going to try and convert those sales in a quicker and more cost-effective fashion. So that kind of does my little bit at the moment. I'll be back with any questions at the end. Dave, I'll let you click your little button and you can go on to the next bit.
Right, thanks very much, Graham, and thanks for that. So that's really set the scene as to what this project was all about. We had a desire to help the organisation to meet these goals. Interestingly, before I move on to the next slide, and I talk about this a number of times, if anybody's ever heard of Gestalt's principle, that principle is all about the human psychology of engagement. And there's 7 key steps in the Gestalt's principle. And number 1 is attraction. If you don't get that right, you will not take people naturally through the cycle. And that's very much about engagement with people face-to-face, as well as websites. And for those that are interested, after you have attracted them, the second one is information. That has to be useful, relevant, and valued by the visitor. Once we've given that information, we need to process them. We have to process them through to make sure that what they're looking for, we add more value to. And the 4th stage is transaction. How do we actually get them to actually purchase your product or engage with your organisation? Graham hinted quite nicely on what happens next. And that is that once we've got that transaction, we then have to deliver the service. How do we actually deliver that service? How do we keep that individual informed as to what's happening with their delivery? When they buy a house, when is it going to be available? What should I do in order to prepare to get into that house? All those processes, a checklist. And that brings us on to the 6th part, which is support. Once I've got my house, that's not where it ends. What if I've got some problems with it? How do I engage at midnight if I have a serious problem with the house? So thinking that whole support engagement environment. And finally, before we go back round to attraction again, it's the learning process. What knowledge did we gain as an organisation that we can recycle and put back into our website, that digital experience? And that's partly why we're engaging with Heriot-Watt University, and I'll talk about that slightly later. So, just to introduce ourselves, Unitech, based in Scotland, offices here in London. and a small office out in Bristol. We're not a large organisation. We're founded in 1995, so we have been around for a while. Personally, I have been working with Sitecore, selling the Sitecore product for the best part now of nearly 6 years through 2 previous companies. And I brought that capability to Unitech, who were already actually engaging with Sitecore. We've got a small number of people. We are a Microsoft Gold accredited partner. The reason that we are successful is we focus on 2 key technologies. We are primarily SharePoint specialists, but we recognized a lacking in the SharePoint technology, and that was website content management. Lovely technology for intranets, back-end, document management, but not good, not the best for web content management. So Sitecore was the right product for us to promote and take to market and get our team skilled up on. Our clients, BT is our biggest client. We do all their SharePoint work. We run the whole of btplc.com for BT, even as a small organization. We've been running a number of applications for Heineken. We run the whole of Heineken UK and all their branded sites for Heineken. And in terms of Sitecore, RSM Tynan, you go into that site, that's a Sitecore site. We helped them about 3 years ago to get that site to market. LSG, very interesting one. They were building a big SOA architecture, for those that are technical, a service-orientated architecture linking about 6 different back-end systems for the lifestyle group. And what they needed was to be able to present content to their customers, but it had to be white label branded because they dealt with Barclays, Lloyds, and lots of different brands. So when someone logged on, they had to get the brand once they recognized that individual. Sitecore is delivering all that capability. So that's our organization. Let's talk about this engagement with the Miller Group and Miller Homes in particular. I think the first thing that was very important was that we had to make sure we had the right mix. This started out with the discussions I had with Graham as a technical delivery to the business. And what was key to us, and why I've shown you this, and why we brought Guy Lane and the college into this, is this real value was going to come from the business. We had to understand more about the business, how and why people bought a Miller Homes home. Why did they engage? Why did they want to do that? So we had to get that 4 groups together and start to talk and discuss and understand how we take this beyond just being a technology implementation. So the Miller team, the marketing team, Graham, and a number of executives actually got involved in that whole process. We brought the college in, who brought in sort of user specialists, visual specialists, and Guy and his team did an excellent job in making sure that we progressed, and you're going to see that in the next part of the presentation. We had to offer an architecture which was also going to meet the scalability and resilience needs of the organization. This site could not go down. So we had to make sure that how we put Sitecore in was structured in such a way that we could give that high availability. There are a number of other sites that have to be produced for the construction industry. We're going through a pilot at the moment with Miller. So again, we had to have that scalability within the technology. As Graham's already mentioned, linking into the back-end systems, their ERP system, their Oracle system, Salesforce, and a number of other systems we're about to link into a document management system that they have. And believe it or not, Sitecore has not been a trouble in actually achieving those goals. So Sitecore has been a very flexible and the right product for Miller and for this project. We also worked with Chris and his team to make sure that the licensing agreement, the long-term investment from Miller, was correct, and we did that very quickly, and Graham was able to choose the Sitecore product and his team over 2 other products, I must advise, and we managed to get underway. But the key thing for us then was the project plan. I've just shown a structure of how we approach things, was having key gates, having key stepping stones where everyone could measure where we were in this journey from the old site to the new site to the launch which we planned for yesterday. So it was very important to have good project management and get good engagement. We ran an extranet service so that everyone all around the country that was involved in this project was able to see what was happening, what updates there were, what images were being exchanged, etc., wherever they were, whenever they wanted. They didn't have to come to a meeting. So the extranet was very important to us in keeping control of all the individuals. So that was the project, that was the big picture, that was our involvement. I stayed very close to it, but the person that was driving this the most is the person I'm going to hand over to just now, which is Guy Lane, who's going to talk to us now about the whole user experience and design brief.
Thanks, David. So I think that this was a very interesting project for us, and I think it's actually symptomatic of a trend for creative companies, creative teams, how things have changed, because a few years ago it was very much a case of a client calling up a design agency and saying, build me a website. And I think the talks we've had today so far have been fascinating, and as I say, how the industry has actually changed. So I think from our point of view as a creative team, we very much see our role as specifically focused on the user experience. We recognize that there are technical specialists and people who are much better than we are at technical stuff. So I'm pointing over to David and a lot of guys here in the room, and specifically with this Sitecore product. So we're very agnostic with regard to technology. Sometimes we'll build a website, a small website, and we'll use this or that application or CMS. But for the more serious projects, quite frankly, I advocate to our clients that to get best user experience and best technology, quite often that's best done by hiring two outfits, specialists, on the basis that those two teams actually work together. So I think that's an interesting debating point. I don't know, I would have thought everyone's got views on that, but it's interesting how things have changed. So as I just tried to explain very briefly on my team, we're called the College. There's around 25 of us, and we're part of a business called the College Group, which is essentially international business communications consultancy. As I said, we're very much into digital strategy, user experience, visual design, content, increasingly, obviously, the importance of information architecture. It's a profession that didn't even exist a few years ago, and look how important that is, and how valuable information architects are, and we're fortunate to have an extremely good lead information architect. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, and she's absolutely terrific, and that's very much a fundamental part of our offering. We have a number of clients, some of which you might recognize, all manner of businesses, essentially, from every conceivable sector. So it's always interesting to learn about new sectors and new businesses and the dynamics of individual industry sectors. What's similar and what's different between those different sectors. Today we've had, I think, very interesting perspectives from EasyJet, obviously, Love Film, and now we're talking about homes. Miller Homes, the biggest purchase of your life, isn't it? Probably, I don't know what kind of car or house you have, but broadly speaking, buying a house is like 10, 15 times bigger than your biggest ever next purchase, which is a motor car probably, or an expensive holiday. So the scale of purchase, you're talking about maybe a £20 airline ticket or a £5 movie, and now we're talking about £200,000 or £300,000 or £400,000 home. To what extent are those transactions or are those processes online similar or different? Interesting, the information architect we work with on our team, Fia, I asked her about this. She said, oh, it's the same. What do you mean, Fia, it's the same? How could buying a tape, buying a disc, buying a house be the same? I think from her point of view, it's essentially a journey on the website, of course. It's the things that David was talking about. It's the grabbing the attention, stimulating the interest, creating the desire, and of course, action. What is a successful outcome? On that basis, you can actually make these, make suitable comparisons, whatever the product. Of course, we're not selling homes online with Miller. We're actually, our destination, if you like, is getting the user to book up a visit to a showroom, because people don't, they're new homes, and people don't buy new homes unless they go to a show home. Therefore, the website, from a sales and marketing standpoint, is essentially there to drive qualified traffic to the show homes. Not surprisingly, we have a process. Won't go through it in vast detail, but we very much advocate a strategic approach. We all know that projects are almost inherently tactical. So, and we all know that everyone's under tons of pressure all the time to get things out the door, get things built, and so on. But we always advocate as much as possible to adopt a strategic approach. This was an interesting one, where a very interesting project in the sense that it was driven essentially initially by technical requirements and a technical desire to have a vastly improved IT platform and site core. And on the back of that, I got involved, and it became, obviously, it was a transitional project, taking old website to new website, migrating it to new host with new technology. So the big question mark there was, to what extent was I going to put a spanner in the works, basically? Was it going to be a replication of the old site? To what extent were we going to change that website? So this process supported that. This methodology supported the sort of conclusions that we arrived at as the extent of that change. We looked obviously at the website users, which are vastly disparate. So these are new home purchases, and we have everybody from first-time buyers, young people, to older people. The properties, the new homes are Scotland, England, or mainly, I have to say, more Midlands, Northern England, and Scotland. And quite, as I say, disparate website users, often first-time buyers. So I guess that's another dynamic which we always face with the World Wide Web. You stick up a public website. Yes, we have to think about the specific users, the specific user models, the specific user journeys, but we are dealing with a multiplicity of audience groups. I think this actually stimulates me to say that really that's where the online brand experience comes in. Because if one's thinking of it, as people have alluded to earlier today, as essentially an online brand experience, that brand, making that brand, be it Dyson, EasyJet, Miller Homes, or whatever, making that relevant and powerful for the disparate audience groups is key to any project of this kind, I believe. Not surprisingly, we looked at competitors and we looked at peer group websites and we analysed those websites as you would expect. I was struck by the sort of, if you like, the similarity of propositions. I guess that house building industry, hugely competitive, as Graham pointed out, challenged by economic circumstance and recession and so on, fiercely competitive and all desperately trying to outgun each other. So trying to figure out points of difference in terms of offering, brand, and presentation was fairly key. I felt that I did feel that the peer group was essentially really quite similar in its approach, as you could probably see by these websites. One of them, bottom in the middle, Persimmon, was, I think, had a little bit more brand attitude, so that's something we bore in mind, the extent to which we wanted to present more of a brand attitude for Miller Homes. Essentially, the Miller Homes brand, is a family proposition. It's to do with integrity, very, very, very high standards of quality, very, very high referral by satisfied homeowners and customers, which is terrific. Very much a quality proposition and very much to do with delivery and customer satisfaction. We do quite a lot of work, as you can imagine, on user journeys. I'm sure you do with your projects too. That's a fascinating process in itself, and obviously the more work and analysis we do on that, the better. Simplifying the journey. We felt that the current website was really had grown and was really quite complex. We felt that some of the journeys were unnecessarily complicated, and some of them ended up in kind of cul-de-sacs, which we wanted to avoid. As it says on this slide, really driving the user to booking an appointment online is the name of the game. We looked at search, because clearly search, as in any website, but particularly this one, is fundamental to the piece. So we looked at searches that are used in the industry and outside the industry. We looked at car websites, which obviously they spend massive amounts of money on. We looked at those. Rightmove, which is an aggregating website you're probably familiar with, is a very interesting example. And that really formed our recommendations regarding search, I'll come on to, but that was clearly fundamental, as I say. And it probably comes as no surprise to you all that that sort of cliche about location, location, location. When somebody's looking for a property, location is actually primordial. Here's some of Fia's work on a little detail here of sitemap. I think that she had some particularly strong views regarding simplifying the structure and making the search sufficiently heroic, easy to find, and then getting people from that search clearly. A lot of this is common sense, just getting people to the material that they want as easily and quickly as possible, or from there supporting that with promos and calls to action. This is an example of a wireframe. There's nothing particularly radical about this, but FIA produced detailed wireframes, obviously, of all the key pages for the templates. This is the website before and after, so what we advocated in terms of visual design was something which was more relaxed, something which was a bit more emotive, something which was easier on the eye and presented the search in a simplified and clearer way. So we've actually positioned that right up at the top, as you can see in the new website, Find Your New Home. Very simple mechanic there, above the actual carousel. And as you can see from the interface, we've actually ditched a lot of that sort of reflex blue, which was a bit of a battle. Actually, that prompts me to say that you would have these fascinating debates with client and client team, clearly about colours and so on. And colours are so, as we know, incredibly important. You think back earlier today to EasyJet, and it's kind of, obviously you think orange or whatever. So Miller had a preponderance of reflex blue. We persuaded the client to actually accept using that cyan, that lighter blue color, which was very much key to our recommendation to make the site friendlier, warmer, and dare I say it, less male. I don't think we're allowed to refer to genders, but a bit more female, more emotion, more emotive. As far as the actual search process is concerned, the homepage, as you can see, on the right with the search at the top, and we had find a new home link at the top, booting up that page with a detailed search and also geographic. So it was a cleaner and tidier interface. Similarly, search result page, we tidied that up and made it much easier for people to identify the properties which were of interest to them. The development, the way it works is, as you're probably familiar with, or you may be familiar with new homes, you have developments and you have plots. So it's getting people to the development that they're interested in, and then from there to the plots that they might be interested in. That's the sort of the general sort of sequence of events. So here we have an improved, in our opinion, the site's just gone live, so proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating. So we're going to have to analyze the success of this. But our research and our analysis indicated that this was essentially the way forward to tidy up the development page, to present a carousel of small images underneath the hero image, and to have calls of action down the right-hand wing, and making better use of screen space. And then we mine into the plot selection from the developments, from the choice of development, and again that is our recommended, or what was our recommendation regarding cleaning and tidying up the plot selection. Likewise, property details with a carousel underneath the hero pick, better layout, with better organisation of links and calls to action, all the time promoting the phone line. An interesting facet of this, I suppose in common with every business, the love film example is a classic example, isn't it? Mike and Dyson too. This is a journey. We haven't nailed everything with this new website. This is another kind of chapter, is the way I look at it. This is an improvement. We'll look at the numbers, we'll look at the stats, but we believe this is an improvement on what we had before. And it's very much a journey. I've mentioned this a couple of times now, but calls to action are critically important. So really, in terms of business, Miller Homes is going much, much more online. There's a lot more work to do with that, and this is the next step along that way. Example being, let's just take one example of many there on that particular point. Traditionally, you have a sales force. Well, Miller Homes has a sales team. Sales team exists really at the show, in each showroom, based at each development. So linking up with those guys, with those salespeople at the sharp end, is very, very important. So the extent to which the website is working in harmony with the existing sales and marketing infrastructure of Miller Homes is fundamental to the piece. On that point, anecdotally, a lot of the sales guys are a bit snooty about internet inquiries. So qualifying those internet inquiries with better information, more topical, and better quality leads from the website is going to then empower, or how can I put it, excite the sales force at the show home more than has been done in the past. And I think that really relates to Graham's earlier point, which was that this game is not necessarily about getting more and more and more and more traffic. It's very much a case of getting better traffic and better qualified leads. We have also developed a mobile site which has not gone live yet. It's going to go live in about 4 weeks or so. And this mobile site is very much predicated on the search, the property search, and the same thing as website, getting people to book up appointments with salespeople and visiting show house. Fear, our architect, worked up this plan for the mobile site, which is quite a small site. There's around 12 pages or so. It's very simple. On the left, you see the home page, which is, we had masses of debate around this. Managed to persuade the client to keep it very, very, very simple, and essentially a property search. Nice and simple. And then going through, as per website, through to development and plot and Google Map. And here you can see, those are wireframes. Here you can see some visual design. Again, clean, plenty of air, plenty of the cyan or the lighter blue color. And more pages, more mobile pages, which we designed for the mobile. Again, as you can see, with very clear calls to action. So I think now I'm going to hand over to talk just a little bit more, for David to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that we managed to overcome. Yep. Is that right? Thank you very much.
For those of you that were astute enough to notice that we've created a hologram on the mobile phone, on the left hand, or right hand to you, that came down the bottom of the phone. That was just to represent the fact that you could actually spin that particular image up and down the screen. I actually went to a talk at Orange about 5 years ago at the IOD, and they're actually in the process of developing mobile hologram phones. They actually, so you touch on the phone and you get an A5 hologram image of what's on your phone. So fascinating things that are coming along. And that's why when we talk about a journey, technology is changing fast. All these things are going to come along, and we have to be ready. We have to have the right tools, the right perceptions, and right attitudes in our business to embrace them and to get them out there to help us meet our organizational objectives. But in the project journey on its own, there are always challenges, time and cost. When we started out, we were just looking at putting Sitecore in, let's get the website migrated, and of course, when we start to put all this nice creativity in place, that costs money. So what we had to do was make sure that the business was ready and ready to embrace that, to adopt it. We're willing to invest in it, and hopefully what we've got is in the outcome they're very pleased with. In fact, Graham showed me that there's been a post by one of the senior executives already on the Miller Group website saying, fantastic job, what a difference this is to our online presence. So there are always those challenges. Essentially nailing the brief as well. There are a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and if we have decision by committee, we get nowhere. So we had to have people that had to take authority to say, this is how we'll do it. I hope Graham doesn't mind me saying this. We did have a bar change. This is the downside of Sitecore, actually. Now that they've got this great content management system and people can actually take ownership of the website, we noticed yesterday when it went live that if you spin up the page, down at the bottom, there's a gold bar that appears, which was not in our brief, and kind of just takes a wee touch away from this nice soft imagery. But it's over to the client to decide how they want to go forward. But we got through the brief, we got them engaged, we got them their website, we've got the mobile going live as soon as possible, and they're already excited about what they're going to do next within that online digital experience. As you heard, we simplified the search. One thing that hopefully came out there, one of the problems with the old site and the search was that when people requested a particular property type and size, etc., it actually just came up with a list of properties on that particular location. And then you had to almost virtually search again and spin up and down to try and find what you're looking for. If you wanted to go somewhere else, it was a whole exercise to get back to the start and start again. What maybe wasn't quite clear in the imagery in the search is that we actually have hotspots. So when people put in search and it was learning what they're looking at, it's actually hotspotting houses that we think fit their profile and brings those to the top, and then gives them other options that they might be interested in, almost like a sell-up. And the key thing that you probably seen on there was quite clearly the call to action, book an appointment. Wasn't in the old site, wasn't there before, because it was very much a push. Come and have a look at the content and we'll hope to hear from you. What we're doing now is come and have a look at the content, and why not come and talk to us? Why not come and see us? That's the key behind this new particular site. So avoiding dead ends, and finally reconciling the search engine optimization drivers with the brand user experience. There was a team brought in to help us with that by Miller. It was quite engaging. There were a number of, we won't call them heated exchanges, just good discussions and debates about what was the right way that people are going to find the Miller homes. So at the end of the day, we brought all those specialists together to make sure that the objectives of Miller Homes was met, and hopefully what you've seen today satisfies that. It's certainly satisfied Miller. What we're doing next, we've got the mobile phone launch coming up. I'd like to show you something very quickly. Unfortunately, we haven't got web access here. We've been working with Heriot-Watt University. Anybody heard of Shugle? Anybody heard of Shugle? Go to shugelit.com and have a wee look at this technology. It's called interactive visual media. And it's the next thing that we're going to see from on the Miller site. We're actually, Unitech have signed up an agreement with the university to take this technology to market. It's very, very low cost interactive media capability. I'm going to try and hold this up and let you see it. So this is me. I'm on my iPad. You can do it on your laptop, or you can do it on an iPad. It's got a little app you download. And I'm going to see here there's a house. I'm just going to load up the house. And the key thing now is that when someone comes to have a look at their house, instead of just seeing that flat 2D image, we can actually spin the image around and have a wee look around the back. What's it going to be like? And that's the type of technology that we're talking about. The other ones that I have here, I can't remember if I've downloaded them. If you type in house on the site, there's another one when you spin about it actually changes the shades and the inside. So you'll actually see what's it like at night time versus what's it like during the day. So I'll actually shade that house as you move your finger across or your mouse across the particular house. What we're working with Heriot-Watt University on also is Miller have got their design engineers doing their architectural designs, where we're actually going to have little icons around here so we can actually change some of the fitments, some of the styling. So if somebody wanted a different outside finish, they can actually choose that finish and then have a look at what the house would be like. They can look in the kitchen, they can change different aspects, and again spin round to actually see that in a motion, an interactive visual way. So this whole thing that we're talking about here is to try and what new value. We go on, we have a look at a house. You've seen all the other home sites. They're all much of a muchness, so hopefully what this is going to do is add that little edge to the experience when you go to buy a Miller home. So just to finish up, as well as that, we're looking at the whole social media interactivity. We've already, Guy and his team have already put a whole presentation together as to how Miller should engage with that, and essentially went through all their Facebook, Twitter, all these different areas that they are present in, and identified that same type of thing: too masculine, too bold, not getting the right information across, trying to push too much, rather than engaging the visitor, get that attraction piece right, get the right information, and move them through to that appointment process. So what I'd like to do is finish up there. Invite Graham to come back and join us so that we can take any questions. Hopefully that has been interesting to you, and that journey might be something some people will reflect with, or a journey that some people might just be about to embark upon, and you've got some good pointers from this talk today. I think Graham's sugaring at the moment. He's spinning his house around.
So we have time for a few questions before lunch. There's a gentleman down the front here.
Hi there, my name's Joe. I work at a charity called WaterAid. We currently have a CMS which is fairly clunky and old and so on, and we're on the journey to moving towards Sitecore. So it says in the talk description that you were going to say something a little bit about the efficiencies perhaps, or what actual practical changes can I expect from my web team once we have Sitecore in terms of improvements of just actually the content production side?
Will I go, Dave?
Yeah, go.
From our point of view, we had a bespoke CMS, bespoke systems, as I said. What we've noticed, short time scale for transfer and a little bit of training. We employed 2 people internally and outsourced some of the work to Dave, so it was a bit of a joint effort between 2 teams, but not huge amounts of people. Yeah. So what I would say from a senior IT perspective, I would say efficiencies in the team, speed, agility of the change, and something that's a platform we can change. I think more importantly for us, a platform we can change more easily going forward with less work, so deliver more to the business. With, I would say, less people, we will certainly save money. The way we had our website team set up before and the external agencies we used. So we will probably reduce our cost and I think deliver more year on year, which is, I think pretty good. So, I mean, early days yet, but we're there, but I think we're pretty confident we're going to achieve that.
If I talk from a bigger picture, because I've been involved with Sitecore for many years, we reckon we're saving in a resource perspective up to 80% of the time allocated to actually creating content. I did a project for Scottish Development International, SDI. They're now using Sitecore. That was about 3 years ago. And they had people all over the world having to get content onto the website. So it was emailed about, people would pick up the PDFs. There was always this big delay in getting the content up. After we put the project live, essentially everyone around the world was given authority to change their bit, and that's the great thing about Sitecore. It allows those users to be able to be allocated areas where they can update notes, etc. And it revolutionized the content and just the whole experience from an internal and an external perspective. And they reckon they saved over 80% of time and cost in that particular project. And I'm expecting much the same.
Is there anything about the modular approach to Sitecore that has efficiencies?
I mean,
So the question is about using the Sitecore's modularity, the ability to snap stuff together.
yeah, again, multiple sites. It's reusable entities. Have you seen the interface for Sitecore? Yeah. Our team love it. We've got 8 people that are certified Sitecore developers, and every time I send someone off on the training course, they come back and say, this is fantastic, you know, comparing it against the likes of the SharePoints and the .NET and the visual development tools that we've got for other projects. So yeah, in my view, it is the best. It's easy to use, and in many ways, layman, you don't have to be a developer for a lot of the work. Very simple things. You've got all the management tools in there as well. Tenon, the other one of our clients, is very much switching on to the DMS now, so they're taking advantage of all those other tools. And again, they're using it within their marketing teams, not their technical teams.
Super. Time for one more question before lunch. There's a gentleman down here.
Hi there, it's Chris Webster from Lendlease, another developer. Just interested in some of the integrations you mentioned there, just on a couple of areas. How do you manage the sale of the plots with Sitecore and your other integrated systems? Do you separately content manage when a house is sold, or does your stock control or sales system automatically push through?
Number one, we don't sell online, you know, so nothing actually happens on the...
I realise that.
Yeah.
I just meant once the
hits
sale
back
is
in.
agreed, to prevent somebody else then booking a viewing.
So I think the ERP system makes everything available for sale and all the pricing. So that's all done. Somebody must sit in the sales admin team and make plots available. That updates Salesforce and updates the website, so that then it's visible for people to go in. And any leads or any questions or a booking appointment or all those the new activity we put in the website comes back in and goes into Salesforce. So the sales advisor on the ground then should see what's available. So that Salesforce diary, so we can't double book an appointment, for example, only shows the live hour slots available in that person's Salesforce diary. So they can't double book when they're letting somebody else go around. So it's a live Salesforce diary that gets exposed through that bit of the website. So we're only showing what is available live.
Yeah, it's virtually real time.
Now, if the sales advisor is not keeping the diary up to date, then they can double book. But you know, if they're doing the job properly, then the system, because it's that live data feed.
Okay, and you mentioned about the after-sales customer service.
Yep.
Is that something that you see predominantly done in Salesforce, or will you be using Sitecore for that, or using any kind of customer portals to allow self-service?
I think probably the customer portal will be the website, which will be built on Sitecore. Undoubtedly, it would link back into Salesforce, I think, and probably into the ERP system. But I think the view would be that digital, that online experience that people have, we would expand that so they can log the defects or track the legal completion process and things like that. So it'd still be Sitecore as the front end for the customer, and I think we continue to log into more of the information that's available in both of those systems.
I think
that's the way we see it.
That's what we're all recognising. You've heard this morning from LoveFilm and EasyJet, is that more and more people are getting online. They've got these devices, they're more readily available, so they want to be able to connect with your organisation. It's that last 3 pieces of the Gestalt principle. You've got to deliver, you've got to support, you've got to learn, so that you add that value back to the next person that's going to take that journey. It's a logical process, and if you break the process, then it doesn't work. So that's hopefully the next step we're going to take with Miller as well. And I would encourage every organisation going online to think about all those steps.